All right.
So, hello everyone. This is like all of a sudden. Like basically what happened was that like Czech Republic is the worst in Europe in like Corona right now. Everything is like super closed, and I'm just like home bored, and I was like thinking about what to do, and I thought about that. Maybe I can like talk to like some of my friends from Magic because I can't really like see anyone. Back in the day we just traveled to tournaments and we like saw each other all the time, but that doesn't really happen right now.
That's
And
true.
and Corey is awesome, so I chose him as my guest here. So can you like
Yeah, we're still in the lockdown as well, man. So it definitely is boring as hell during these COVID times. That's
how
for
bad is
sure.
it in America? Like is everything closed or
Surprisingly, a lot of things are open, but for the most part, people are not going to do anything because our numbers are worse than like any other place. So we should be closed,
yeah?
but since the U.S. is kind of a greedy place, it seems we're still open for for the most part.
Yeah, like in Czech it's like awful. Like none of the gyms, like even you can't even go to like a restaurant or anything. Like everything is just like horrible. So
Yeah, if I wanted to, I think I could go to whatever I want, but I've been playing it safe as well, and being
yeah,
being conscious on that regard. So yeah, I've been bored out of my mind as well, man.
yeah. Like this is my first attempt for doing this, so it's not gonna be like an official interview or anything. We're just gonna like chat
Sure,
and let's see if people like it. So can you
sounds good.
like most people, I assume that most people who are gonna watch it know you, but maybe some of them don't. So like, can you introduce yourself or something?
Yeah, so I'm Corey Baumeister. I've been playing Magic for oh god, what is it now? Like
It's
20.
crazy. How old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 30. I started when I was 13, so 17 years I've been
Wow.
playing. And my first pro tour was in '08, so I've been playing professionally for 12 years now, on
Wow.
and off and stuff. So, yeah,
What was
yeah.
the set that you started with?
What's up?
What was the set that you started with? Like for example, I started with the first Ravnica. So what was yours?
Okay. Nice, nice. Yeah, I was playing Magic Online by that point. I started with Onslaught. Onslaught into Odyssey, I believe it was, which was like the Psychotog stuff
Oh,
like
I
that. I
see.
remember,
Is it like the
I remember going.
goblins?
What's up?
Is it like the set with goblins or is it a different one?
Yeah, goblins, elves. It was a really tribal set. I remember just gaining a lot of life with elf decks, like 85 card elf decks. Playing against Brad on the kitchen table. Um, but yeah, it was a different time in Magic, that's for sure. Things were a lot slower. It wasn't as many busted things. You were just happy to tap a well wisher and gain 5 life.
How big of an influence did like actually I should probably say that like you're a brother of Brad Nelson, right?
Yep. Brad.
Yeah, your surname is different, so like it might not be that obvious to people.
Yeah. Brad Nelson's my older brother. We have different moms.
Yeah.
So we have different last names there. But yeah, we started playing when we were kids. When I was 13, he was 18. He taught me the game, and for the first like 3 years, it was just me and my brother playing, and then maybe going to our card store every once in a while. But kept it pretty low key for a while. Until he became the superstar he is, and I became the medium gold pro that I am. But
How big?
yeah, we've been playing
Yeah.
together for a long
How,
time.
how big of an influence do you think played the fact that like Brad became so good? Like, do you think that you like trying kind of wanted to like chase him or something like that? Like maybe if he didn't exist, you wouldn't try as hard. Like can
Yeah,
you
it changed my life, to be honest.
yeah.
That's the short answer of it. Is right when we were both coming up as pros, we were doing this together. It was a journey, and then I basically took time off to go to school, pursue other things, and he kept going. He had that future, that bright future with how many top eights he had and stuff like that. It was pretty clear he was going to be big in the game. But I never had those huge breakout results. Just always, top 64 pro tours, maybe a top 32 here.
I can
Uh,
relate.
yeah, no huge finishes. But then it was after I got done with 4 years of schooling, I had that moment that you were exactly describing, Petr, is like, my brother's already doing this. I was, at least at the same skill level or close to compete with him. You know, I've been in front of a camera. I was able to do some of the stuff that he was doing, or at least I wanted to try. So I quit going to school, and I only had 1 year left. I was going to be a teacher.
Wow.
And you know, I won back-to-back PTQs for Pro Tour 1 and Pro Tour 2 with Hawaii and Dublin when it was the old pro system, the gold.
How many years back are we talking?
Pro Tour Kaladesh, whatever that was.
That's like 5 years ago or something?
Yeah, I think 5 years ago I won I won an in-person PTQ with BAMP Humans that BBD won Worlds with. That was the week before. And then the next weekend I just played an online PTQ for Dublin, just a limited one. I know, Petr, limited PTQ I won. Be shocked. It involved a lot of Archangel of Avacyn's, Liliana the Last Hopes, and
for some reason you like keep saying that you're like bad at limited, but like I don't necessarily think that that's true.
Yeah, it wasn't my strong suit. You know, I definitely consider myself a standard player, but not terrible at it. But yeah, after I won those 2 PTQs, I had a wake up moment in my life, and I was just like, Brad's doing this. I'm not necessarily happy in the path that I was going down. Like I was doing it, making my parents happy. You know, it was something that it was a good path, but deep down, right? Yeah, it was safe. You know, it was something that I know I should do.
People say it's safe, and like maybe that comes from the fact that like before you didn't really have a choice. Besides that, like there was no internet, like you couldn't really like make content or like, you know, do anything. Yeah. So it makes sense that they think that, but you know, you just chose a different.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is a completely different topic for another day, but people that just play it safe, you always live with some kind of regret, and I've always lived my life in such a way that I never want to have any regret when I'm on my deathbed, you know, be like, God, I wish I tried this. I wish I tried this. I just, you know, I want to do it. No, I did, dropped out of school. My parents clearly were not happy to pursue a career in Magic content creation and professional playing. But yeah, it shaped everything. Knowing that Brad already has been on this path, I don't think if he was, I would have quit because it was too big of a risk, right?
Yeah. Like when when did you decide that you wanted to be like competitive at Magic? Was it like off the bat, like when you started playing, were you just like playing for fun, or was there always like this like pursuit of like trying to become a pro or like become one of the better players, like, or is it like changed over time, or how was it for you? Definitely
changed because I mean it started off, I was 13. I was just playing Yu-Gi-Oh on the table with Brad. That was our first game we played when we were kids. And then, you know, he came in and he's like, Magic, we got to try it. Learned it at school at the lunch table at his high school. And, you know, for the most part, the first 2 years, we were just playing for fun. For the first year, I think, maybe a little less, we were only playing on the kitchen table against each other. You know, of course, Brad being a teenager, he was destroying me. But, you know, slowly our skill gap kind of evened out. And then we just went to FNMs, like most people that started off. Like that was our first taste of competitive Magic. And, you know, we were getting destroyed, but just mostly something to do on Friday, have some fun. But then I think it was like the first time either one of us made a top 8, we're like, okay, now we started watching videos of pro players. We started looking at deck lists. And then it shifted pretty quickly to, all right, I want to see the PTQ schedule. Is there one in the close area? And then it kind of blew up from there.
Nice. Well, so the first pro tour that you qualified for, how old were you again?
16.
Wow.
16.
Wow.
That is one heck of a story. You want to hear it?
Sure. Anything.
Okay. So I'd been to I think 2 PTQs before this PTQ. First, I started 4-0 with a rock deck, just green black.
Was it like a Doran deck or?
What's up?
Was it like a Doran deck, or is it even before that? That was way before.
Even before that, it was. Do you remember Troll Aesthetic?
Oh, I remember. Okay. I don't think I played it back then, but I remember the card. Yeah,
Troll Aesthetic, Umazara's Jite,
nice.
And just a bunch of removal spells, and you just played Birds of Paradise and stuff like that. You know, just a good grinding mid-range deck, something that would get destroyed in today's day and age of Magic. But like I started 4-0, then the wheels fell off. I didn't make top 8 in that. Next one I scrubbed out badly. And then Brad had been playing PTQs pretty regularly and top 8ing just about everyone. Yeah. But losing in the top 8 of every single one. Every single one. He kept playing like, countertop Goif. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yeah, I remember that deck, yeah.
Yeah. So he played that a lot. And I just, I wasn't good enough to play that deck. So I played something that had an easier game plan. And we traveled like 3.5 hours to this PTQ in Canada, actually, because we lived on the border of the United States and Canada. And I just played this extended dredge deck, just a ridiculous dredge with Icarit, Breakthrough.
Was it like a known deck at that point, or?
It was known, but it wasn't like the hate was really good against it. There were Tormod's Crypts everywhere. I can't remember what else the hate was, but it wasn't the best deck, but it was known.
I think there was like maybe the 2-1 that makes all the cards in graveyard like lose abilities.
Oh, yep, that was out as well. Yeah. There was some hate, which made it, kind of like what Dredge is now in Modern. Like sometimes it has a good weekend, but for the most part, if people are expecting it, they can beat it.
So it was like so powerful that even though people were packing hate, it was just winning anyway.
Exactly. Yep.
That's sad.
Well, it wasn't winning that much, but it was okay. It wasn't really winning too many events from what I remember. But then when we went to this PTQ, there was a huge snowstorm the day of the PTQ that just North Dakota winters, Canada winters are really brutal. But we got there the day before, me, my brother, my grandmother, and my dad, because, like we needed adults with us. We were both still kids, essentially. And we get in the day before, and then there's a huge blizzard that shuts transportation in and out of this city completely down. So anybody who traveled that day for the PTQ couldn't get in.
Wow.
So the PTQ was 28 people.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, but at the time when before kind of the age of the internet, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but there was not a ton of PTQs online. Like I don't think any at the time of Magic Online. And so these PTQs would still be 150 people or something. Because, you live the dream, you can qualify for the Pro Tour. And I was just the young kid, and back in the day, you just fill out deck list, on the table. Everybody could walk by and see what people are playing. And people came to the assumption that only one kid was playing Dredge, and it was a child, so who cares?
I see.
Everybody cut their Dredge hate, and I steamrolled this tournament. Just absolutely annihilated everyone. Brad lost in the top 8, of course.
Of course.
And then he had to see his 16-year-old little brother with that blue envelope before him, which I know
you actually queued for the first Pro Tour before Brad ever did?
I played 3 before Brad ever did.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, that's a dagger.
Yeah, it was a dagger, but my first Pro Tour was in PT Hollywood. I was 17 at the time. And I lost my last round to not top 50 to qualify for the next one. So I went 10-5 10-5 because I would have been 11-4. And I took 53rd. And back in the day, it was just top 50 that qualified you. So daggers there. I got close, but then kept qualifying on rating because that's how it used to be back in the day to play the next day.
I never actually did that, but I remember it being that way.
Yeah.
Yep. So like lately you got a lot into like content production. You're like streaming a lot. You're making videos for Star City. Is that right?
Yep. Star City Games. Yep.
Yep. So like you do a lot of it. You even like commentate some of the tournaments and stuff. Like what was the reason for you to get into it? Did you like decide that was the best choice? Was it maybe because of Corona, because like you can't really go to tournaments and you wanted to be involved into Magic more, or like what was the reasons behind it? Like can you maybe talk about it?
Yeah, so basically the first motivator was pre-COVID. It was MPL year.
Yeah.
I took 40th and MPL was top 32. So just barely missed.
Yeah, I was pretty close as well. It was very frustrating. Also considering the fact that like I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like like we didn't know that it's going to happen, and maybe if we did, you would like try a lot harder, you know, but because like you thought that maybe the difference between gold or platinum wasn't like that impactful, or like from other reasons, you were like whatever. But maybe if people knew it, like we would like play infinite, right? Because MPL just means so much. So that like really hurt people like us. But yeah.
Yeah, it was really big daggers because I mean I remember that season I was on my 4th GP top 8 in a row with you. I remember I just saw our Facebook memory where we took a picture together at GP
Portland, I think.
At Atlanta. It was because Portland was the 5th one and I missed on that one. But you know, so I was in first for that year, that MPL year, by a lot before the Pro Tours, because 4 Grand Prix top 8s before the first Pro Tour, I was sitting great.
Yeah.
But then the Pro Tours, I just, you know, did really nothing. You know, most of them we were on testing teams together, I think, that whole year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sucked. I skipped a GP late.
Yeah,
I skipped a GP late in the season because I'm like, you know, I'm not going to get platinum. It's not going to help, but it could have helped for MPL. But I didn't know that, of course. So fast forward a little bit, once it became pretty clear that it was kind of the MPL or bust for that start of the year, where we didn't know how to get into MPL. We didn't, you know, the path to be a pro was pretty uncertain.
Yeah.
Then me and my fiance already wanted to move out of the city that we were living in because I moved to that city for school. It wasn't my hometown. I didn't have family there. She didn't have family there. So
what cities are we talking about?
Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
And we both lived in Mandan, Bismarck, North Dakota. It was only like 4 hours away, but
I'm not American, so I don't really know what you're talking about, but maybe the people who listen do, so.
yeah, no problem. It was just a college town versus we lived in a smaller town. So we had a decision to make. We're like, should we move back home to be around family, or should we move somewhere else? And I personally wanted to move somewhere else because I've just always wanted to live out of my home state. And, you know, once again, going back to that thing where I quit being a teacher, I would live with regret if I never did live in another place other than my hometown, you know? The same with you moving to Japan, I'm sure. I'm sure that was a huge thing for you that helped you out.
Yeah, I was also like sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, basically the same thing as you're saying. I was super scared to like go there. But exactly as you said, I would really regret not going, so I just did. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important life lessons I've learned so far is like, just go for something. Of course, you know, when things work out, it's easier to say go for something. And, you know, I love what I'm doing now, but it may have not worked out and I still would have wanted to go for it. But yeah, so anyways, we decided we wanted to move, and we wanted to move someplace away from home. And Roanoke, Virginia is the headquarters for Star City Games. That's where Brad lived.
Yeah.
He was planning on moving, so it wasn't like I was going to be moving to see more family, because I actually took his job, basically.
Wow.
When he moved away. But I made a decision that, you know, I want to do the content game. I wanted to get into streaming. I wanted to work for SCG. I wanted to do Versus Live. I wanted to keep dropping bombs going. And then I wanted to pursue Pro Magic and pursue the SCG Tour as like my side hustles. But I wanted something that was consistent money, consistent living. I didn't have to worry like, hey, I had to go to this tournament. If I didn't do well, you know, I'm not paying rent. Like I wasn't gonna lean into that anymore. And so I wanted to create other things. You know, we created the podcast as well, the Bash Bros podcast. And I wanted to make sure I just had a good, safe amount of money coming in no matter what. And then I'd still try to be a pro. But I figured with how the new pro system was set up, it was either I should pivot and go get a real job, or I should pivot into the content creation side of it to make sure I have that consistent money coming in.
Yeah, even if your goal is to be a pro player eventually, maybe, or like, you know, that's something that you aspire for, you can still like stream and like, you know, maybe it's not ideal, maybe it's better if you're not stream, but like you're still like involved in Magic, so it kind of goes hand in hand, so it makes sense.
And you can always pull back from a stream and stuff like that too. Like, just if you got a pro tour to test for, do what like Andre does, you know, take 2 weeks off, bring the stream back after the tournament, that kind of stuff. Totally reasonable.
Yeah. So like, what are your plans for future? Like, is there like any new content that you want to bring, or you just want to focus on what you do now and just like make it grow, or like, you know, where are you heading?
Yeah. So for me, what I'm doing, especially with COVID, you know, just kind of putting my head down, trying to work as much as I can. just like you said, build up everything that I've been doing so far, stack up money essentially so that when COVID goes away, we can go and I go hang out, take vacations wherever I want and stuff like that. But the main plan for me now, keeping Bash Bros podcast growing, the stream, all my SCG content, that I'm always trying to improve. But I have been 100%, I found my passion, and that is commentating at the highest level for Wizards of the Coast. And, that is where I'm putting most of my focus now. I learned through this COVID stuff that what I want to do is be a commentator, side by side with Marshall, Riley, Maria, all them. And I've loved doing that work. I have more work with them on the horizon. And that's my number one focus. And it's what I love to do now more than anything is
how different is maybe like streaming from commentating, right? Because like when you're streaming, you're just like there all alone. You can basically do whatever you want. But when you're commentating, I mean, I haven't really done it myself, so I don't really know. But I assume that it's like different. Can you maybe like talk about that?
Yeah, so Versus Live and the stream, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Versus Live, just a show we do every Tuesday and Thursday, battling, kind of commentating over our games. But you can't be full commentator mode because, like you, I'm very competitive, even when we're just making content. Yeah. So at some point, you stop commentating and you're like thinking out in-depth lines. It's impossible to do those both correctly or both at the highest level. So yeah, it's very different, something to get used to. But I just learned that once I started doing the commentating, it was much easier for me than even a stream than Versus. It's something that I really felt natural doing, and it's different skill sets. But I don't know. I love doing it so much. I love the stream as well, but I really like just commentating over a game, analyzing it, bringing in some funny jokes here and there, making it relatable, making it fun. How hard it is
to like focus on like the simple small mistakes or whatever. Because for example, when we like watching with other pros like finals of a pro tour and we see the commentators, they like quite often like miss something super obvious. They say that he did this for a reason. But there is like some he just did it for something obvious and like, oh, how did he not catch that? He's like a professional commentator. Yeah. But maybe when you're like focusing on like all the other stuff, it's like easier to miss those points. Like, did you experience that?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've been the expert role for most of the time, just because I am connected to Magic. I play tournaments all the time. I'm making content, probably 65 hours a week.
Wow, that's a lot.
Different. I no joke, man. It has been quite busy, but the play-by-play definitely in charge of just the flow of everything, and it is that expert job to make sure you hit those high-level plays. And I mean, even this last PT finals, I completely butchered a line of Salvato in the top 4 that like I was like, we definitely should have did this, but I forgot it was static. I forgot about a Narset static ability, and then I look like, I look real stupid.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Petr, you are not the target audience of Pro Tours, the pro players.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I understand that.
There's plenty of times when you're going to know more than us, or we're going to miss lines. But it is definitely my job that I want to make sure I miss as little as possible. Like Luis Scott Vargas, I think, is probably the best expert role player because he doesn't miss stuff. And I think he's the best for like me and you especially. Not that he's not the best for your average FNM player or anything, but me and you will step away from a top 8 where Luis commentated the whole time and be like, wow, like that interaction is really sick. I learned something, when most other times, maybe that's not the case always. But yeah, that's the goal, is to just always not miss those heavy lines. But it's not easy because when you're focusing
I can imagine
on trying to, there's a lot going on, to say the least.
Yeah. There is like another thing that we haven't touched yet, that's like connecting me and Corey, is the fact that we actually won a GP in the same weekend, and we both actually had a birthday that weekend as well, right? I think you're like 13th and I'm 14th of March.
Yep, mine's 13th. Yours is the 14th.
That was just crazy. Can you like what that was their first GP win? Is that right?
That was my first and only GP win. Yeah. I know you have plenty of them, but I only have the 1 and 7 total top 8s. but I've bricked in the finals a few too many times. But yeah, that was the copycat era. Same weekend. We didn't really know each other, but yeah. Brad knew you, and believe it or not, Brad knew me. And he always says, this Petr guy, you're gonna love him one day when we meet.
I actually had a deck list from Brad for that tournament. I changed like 3 cards, but I already like knew Brad, so it wasn't completely random that we both won because we both used Brad's deck list basically. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And I mean that was a deck that I had been just playing nonstop. I love that style of deck, that kind of value accruing deck that has a ridiculous top end game, but can also play the fair game. That's why, I don't know if you've seen my streams lately, I basically only play Yorion decks. And Yorion plays that similar kind of game style that Copycat does, that accruing value and then eventually just have this way over the top thing, whether it be the Charming Prince loop or whatever. That kind of style of Magic I've always loved. So I was really into that side.
I'm the same. Yeah. It is possible that Mardu was slightly better. Like I'm not really sure even until to this day. Probably not.
No, hell no, man.
But just because of the style of the deck, I would never play Mardu over Saheeli. So.
No. That deck was busted. I would play that until the end of time. Yeah, and basically we got to attribute our success that weekend with getting Felidar Guardian banned that next week.
Yeah. High five.
Yeah, we did it.
So with the new system of rivals and MPL, are you going to try to pursue that, or are you going to be more focused on just like commentating and stuff, and just like maybe if it somehow happens, obviously you will be happy, but it's maybe not your like first line of call or anything? How do you?
Yeah. So first, if Paul Cheon and Wizards of the Coast ever come knocking and want my services for any of the Pro Tours or set championships, I guess they're called now, branding here changes all the time. So if they ever ask, I am 100% commentating. That's my highest priority no matter what. But as like you, I'm still super competitive. I still want to win every Magic tournament I play. And if they ever tell me, hey, because there's a lot of commentators, we cannot fit all the commentators that are on the broadcast team on one broadcast. So there are weeks that we sit out. I didn't do the grand finals, and everybody kind of gets their turn. So whenever I'm not scheduled to cast one of these events, you best believe I am going to try to queue it. I'm going to be playing these qualifier weekends on Arena. I'm going to play some Moto PTQs, because what the hell else am I doing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm pretty much in the same boat. It's like hard to be like completely like focused right now, because you don't have, like before, every 3 months you had this Pro Tour going on, and you also had to go to all these GPs and stuff, so you can like basically play Magic all the time, and you knew that you're like testing for something, right? But it's like really hard to do now, so I think your approach makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean I've been practicing mostly for content these days, but it's a really different world, Petr, when you're just like testing to like make sure you have a good deck and you're not just producing bad content, then like finally tuning every single sideboard slot to give you that extra percentage in this matchup, make sure you have the perfect numbers coming in for this matchup. It is different. I have enjoyed it a little bit more of a lax approach than the stress. Let's get real. I mean, the stress of a testing house and getting ready for each Pro Tours. I mean, some of the most stressful times of my life we have shared at different cities around the world. So it has been nice in that regard. But yeah, I still try to break it when a new set comes out, mostly for fun now, mostly for content, but still play a tournament here and there.
Do you think that maybe you got versed because of that? Because like on one hand, because you're producing so much content, you're like maybe playing more than you've been before. I don't really know how much you've played before, but on the other hand, as you said, you maybe focus on like making it more entertaining and not maybe as much as on like just like maximizing your chance to win. So do you actually think that you got better over time, or like are you getting worse?
I think I'm getting worse. Just for the sense that like, back in the day when I'm testing for Pro Tours, it's like I'll spend all week on a deck that I think is really good. fine tuning it, making sure I got 100 games in before my tournament. But now it's like, I'm not going to, for my weekly article series, I'm not going to play Gruul over and over. You know, I want to first think, okay, what's a cool deck I haven't done in a while? What's a fresh spin on it that people will enjoy? I want to be entertaining, so I'm not focusing as hard on just the complete perfect technical play as much as I would when I don't have a camera in front of me and I'm just playing. And you know, that means me learning Rakdos midrange, even though I don't think it's a very good deck, and stuff like that, just to show off different decks in my content.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you. Thanks for you know, spending, I don't know, like 40 minutes with me or something. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and see you next time.
Yeah, always good hanging with you, Petr. Thanks for having me, man.
Bye bye.